common talking point from conservatives for the past, God, almost 10 years now has been that the media has been pushing an agenda, especially in children's entertainment. They have this phrase of go woke, go broke, and many other things of that nature. But I want to address the point that this is nothing new. This has been something happening for a long time in media, including children's media. And I want to give one of the best examples that I saw of this growing up. Hey everyone, my name is Tristan Verstappen, and I have a lot to say about many things. I want to talk about how Teen Titans tackled racism. Teen Titans, for the uninitiated, was a TV show airing on Cartoon Network based off of mostly the 1980s incarnation and iteration of the Teen Titans, with the lineup being Robin, of course, Batman's sidekick, Cyborg, Beast Boy, Starfire, and Raven. This show was incredible. This is the reason that watching the show growing up, I really liked Robin. I liked him more than Batman, and I understand the love for Batman more now that I've actually read his comics, but not a big fan of how he's portrayed in a lot of other media. But that's neither here nor there. I have thought this for a long time, and recently, well, I say recently, 5 months ago, this person released this video. Sensei Speaks released how Teen Titans tackled racism. I have not actually watched this in its entirety. I tend to watch videos through their entirety, and if I find myself constantly pausing and adding to what the person is saying, I will go ahead and make a video on the subject myself. If I don't find myself doing that, I don't normally make a video, so this might not actually be something that actually gets uploaded. I guess you'll find out, or in the future, if this happened, if you're watching it. Anyway, let's get into this.
On this channel, I like to take a lot of creative liberties when making my videos. As you can see, whether it's a comedic video or a more serious tone video, I try to be as unique as possible, and I also try to bring up topics that some people may be afraid to talk about. I know from some of my comments and just from the way the world is that some people and even YouTube might not like me tackling topics like homophobia, transphobia, or racism. However, I do think it's important topics.
Yeah, speaking about that, I'm pretty sure it's been all but confirmed that this character, who I don't know this for a fact, I only ever saw like a handful of Powerpuff Girl episodes, but I think they're called Father. And the idea is they're supposed to be this like androgynous, ambiguous. I don't know if they're supposed to be trans or non-binary or what have you, but yeah.
Like homophobia, transphobia, or racism. However, I do think it's important at times to tackle these topics, specifically when you can relate it to things that we love. And in today's video, we're doing that exactly with a cartoon that I honestly didn't expect this from, Teen Titans.
Okay, I'm gonna mute because probably gonna be copywritten here. I like this little intro. So fun fact real quick about this song. I think it's called, what is the, I just thought a title like the streaming service. Is it just theme song? Opening theme? Oh, it's just Teen Titans theme. Yeah, it's by an artist called Puffy Ami Yumi, who I believe is a Japanese band of two women. And they actually had their own spin-off show, not based on the Teen Titans, but they got their own show on Cartoon Network as well. I remember their little, what is it called? Their theme song was the Hi Hi Puffy Ami Yumi show, and they just like repeat that ad nauseum essentially. The only episode I remember of this show is where the character, I believe this is Ami and this is Yumi. Ami had they broke their arms at one point, and originally it sucked because they couldn't play guitar or drums. And Yumi was like helping them. They're, oh, it's nothing to be sad about or whatever. It's okay to need a little help. and then Yumi actually started like taking advantage of the situation and everything, and like, sorry, Ami started taking advantage of the situation and had Yumi do like everything for her. Yeah, it was a very interesting situation. But anyway, good show. From what I remember, I only saw a couple episodes, but it was a good show. Anyway, they did the kick-ass song, the Teen Titans theme. So if you want to listen to it, you are more than welcome to do so on your own. But I'm not playing it because I'm not risking that copyright. I imagine he's going to do an incredible intro based on the show. Again, I not pre-watched.
Season 4,
okay,
episode.
cool.
This is how Teen Titans tackled racism. Season 4, episode 6 was a very
Actually, you do get to hear it in the background, so that's cool.
special episode titled Troc. Now, upon seeing this title, you might be confused and not understand what this word means, but as you watch the episode and even as you listen to this video, it'll be explained in due time. The episode starts out with a very fancy spaceship flying very fast around the
I'm
Titan
going to do my best to not rock out to the song, by the way. I can hear it in the background, and every fiber of my being just wants to dance to it.
Tower. There are some other ships behind this person who is driving. There's a bigger ship in front and then 2 smaller ships chasing it. The bigger ship seems to be trying to maneuver to get rid of these smaller ships that are chasing it. The Titans are just inside playing a card game, but they realize something is amiss.
Yeah, so little interesting thing about this show, too. Every time the characters are shown doing things, like even when they go out to get pizza together or go to the mall or, do different things that, teens tend to do, they're always like, they're still as their superheroes. You never see Robin as Dick Grayson. You never see the other characters as who they are. I'm sorry, I only know that Robin is Dick Grayson because everyone knows that about Robin. Well, okay, actually, this is a whole nother thing. There's tons of stuff you can find out online about this too. If you look up which Robin is in Teen Titans, like which Robin is it? So most people say it's Dick Grayson, but there are people, of course, that say, "Oh, it's Jason Todd." Well, I don't think it wouldn't be Jason Todd. But it's Tim Drake, or these different things. Obviously, it's Dick Grayson. He's the one that has a relationship with Starfire. He's the one that starts the Teen Titans and leads them. All these different things. He has a few similarities to, say, Tim Drake and different things like that, especially the way he's designed his character art. But it's Tim Drake. I'm sorry, it's Dick Grayson, and I know he's Dick Grayson, and I know Cyborg is Victor. I don't know his last name, and Starfire's first name is Corey, I think.
Because of all the noise and because of the huge ass ship that they see outside the window. Of course, Robin being Robin and the Titans being the Titans.
This is from a completely different episode, by the way. This is from How Long Is Forever, which I believe was the final episode of season 1, if I remember correctly, in which basically the characters kind of have a fight, and like all of them, and Starfire's like, "Hey, we shouldn't take our friendship for granted because one day, we might not know any, even keep in touch with each other anymore." This whole thing happens where they time travel, and Starfire goes into the future to meet all the different versions of the characters and everything. And it's a really interesting look. I would say it was the first time the show started like getting into a more kind of serious animated series rather than like a Saturday morning cartoon type of stuff. You had things like let's see if I can find them actually. Jesus, fanfiction. I don't even want to know. Or no, it's like, yeah, here he is. Beast Boy was really treated like an animal, and he was like made to perform in a circus for people. Basically, it's kind of a take on that concept of like what would happen if, in this case, Starfire went away, because she was kind of like the glue that held everybody together. Robin just went off on his own and became Nightwing. Do we have all the? Yeah. Here. We can see all the different characters. This is from Tumblr, apparently. Yeah, that's a fair point. I find it weird how in this episode where Starfire travels to the future, Robin/Nightwing looks like he's in his early 20s when everyone else looks like they're in their late 50s. I don't remember that Raven does, but yeah, Cyborg and Beast Boy definitely didn't age well in this universe. It's cool. You get to see Nightwing as well, and again, it's the first time that the series kind of tackles any type of serious subject matter. And honestly, it's a good example, I would say, one of those things where like a kids show actually does a really good job at tackling important themes, like say, mortality and the fact that the loving relationships you have now may well not exist in the future. But anyway, we're talking about how it tackled racism.
Titans, they go to investigate it. By the time they get to the rooftop, the person maneuvering the big ship turned into Allen Iverson the way that he was breaking these niggas' ankles. He completely outmaneuvers and lasers each ship and then lands to talk to the Titans. We find out instantly that this big man is not the Tin Man from Wizard of Oz, even though he is shiny as hell. It looks like
I thought it was supposed to be Superman.
Like someone took Jordan Von Strangle and wrapped him in aluminum foil, but he is indeed Valley-Or. Valley-Or is from Pharnathian. That is his home. And as he introduces himself to the Titans, he greets them all pretty happily. But once he gets to Starfire, he looks at her kind of in a shunning way.
About the GTO pickle chin that boy, they go that collard green hair that boy. Oh, hit on boy, dirt that boy.
You instantly get this weird feeling that he was judging her, especially when he says, "Oh, you guys have yourself a Tamaranian." Valley-Or explains to everyone here that the people that he was trying to maneuver and get away from are Locrics or Crissies. These are a robotic race and they hate organic life. They basically want to take them out. I'm gonna be honest, sometimes I have a bad day and I hate organic life too, so I kind of get it. Valley-Or.
Why do I feel like that? I felt like that was going to lead into a sponsor, like, and if you hate organic life, like, whoa, geez, dude, holy shit.
Has been fighting the Crissies for years. They basically travel to different planets and they try to take it over. No, they don't eat the planets, they're not Galactus. However, they just try to get rid of all organic life. Valley-Or, when they got the Pharnathian, was like, nah, I'm good off of that. And he fought back. And since then, he's been trying to take the fight to them. Of course, Robin and the team oblige because they like organic life and they want to help him. They decide to go on his ship and go on a mission to their home planet in order to stop the Crissies where they spawned from.
So we'll continue in a minute here, but as I'm listening to this and thinking, I'm pretty sure that Starfire's character was the one that tackled the most serious subject matter at all. There was one where she was meant to be married off to somebody else that she didn't want to be, so it kind of tackled arranged marriages a little bit, but the way that it handled, and I hated this episode as a kid, but the way that, I can't remember what it's called, but the way that it handled puberty was incredible. Essentially, you have this thing where Starfire first gets a zit, and she's trying to hide it, she's embarrassed, all these different things, right? And then eventually it turns out that she's an alien, by the way, for those that don't know, she's a Tamaranian. Eventually it turns out that she runs away because she starts getting these like claws and scales and stuff, and she thinks my friends won't like me anymore, all these different things, right? They'll think I'm hideous, so she runs away, and she goes to this planet where she meets, however you pronounce those words. Also, the calling the aliens Crissies made me think of the Chrysalis. And this thing is basically like, yeah, you're going to cocoon and turn into me. And eventually, let me find it here. I think it actually showed up a second ago. So there were moments too, by the way, in the show where like they were fighting Plasmius here, where they were like, oh yeah, he's so ugly and horrible and evil. Who would ever like even want to have anything to do with this guy? And that made Starfire feel like really upset too. Obviously the whole thing is a metaphor for puberty, and it's incredible. At the end of the episode, if I can find it here, okay, right when she's about to be like, God, it's such a small image, but right when Starfire is like consumed in the cocoon and she's like about to go through this transformation and everything, that's when the team shows up and saves her. And she comes out and she's like, no, don't look at me, I'm hideous. And there's this really sweet moment where Robin, who's very clearly like, him and her are like, the love interests for each other. he's cutting her out of the cocoon with his birdering, I think it's officially called, and he says something along the lines of like, "It doesn't matter what you look like you're my friend and I care about you." And then he holds up a crystal to her, and he's like, "Besides, you look fine to me," and she just looks like her normal self again. And of course, you don't kind of go back to looking the way you did before after puberty. You look different, but the whole point is that she went through this transformation, which as she was told is common for Tamaranians, which is what she is. Anyway, it was just an incredible take on puberty. There were a lot of episodes like that as a kid I hated because I didn't get it. As a kid, I didn't get. But looking back on it now, I'm like, holy shit, that's so good. And this episode, though, I did get. And when did it? I'm gonna go to IMDb here and find out real quick when this episode came out. What does the Batman have to do with this? I mean, I know they were kind of around the same era. The Batman started in 2004. Really wanted to cross over those two back in the day, but never happened. I did like the Batman a lot too. Nothing will beat Batman the Animated Series though. Rest in power, Kevin Conroy. Let's see here. Where episode 66 episodes? He said it was season 4. Here it is. Okay, 2005. I was 8, and I remember watching this episode on TV, and I will tell you even the way that I thought about it and the reaction that I had even as a child. We'll get to it.
These niggas decided to spawn trap them. Now on the ship, they all get individual jobs. Cyborg gets to drive, Robin gets to help him in the cockpit, Raven and Beast Boy get to get on lasers, but Starfire doesn't get anything to do. He's being very peculiar and rude to her. As they get closer into deep space and closer to the Crixie's home, they get attacked. So of course the Titans assemble alongside Valley-Or and they fight them. In the midst of fighting the Crixie's, Starfire accidentally detonates one of the bombs. Of course, she didn't do this on purpose, it was an accident, but this triggers Valley-Or to go into berserk mode, and I'm not gonna lie, he mixed them Crixies up something crazy. After all is said and done, Starfire goes to apologize to him as any normal person would do, and he lashes out at her, and this is the first time we hear the title of this episode. He says, "I don't need help from a stupid Troc. You got that, Trocky?" This is just the beginning, but once he says this to her and she doesn't react, he does what most people that are prejudiced or racist would do, especially when they feel like they are superior or have power over you. They continue the aggression and they barrage you with these slurs over and over again. And that's what he did. He kept calling her a Troc, so much so that even her other teammates started to hear this. There's a part in this.
I love this so much. So throughout the episode, basically, the guy's given everybody like lovable nicknames and shit, and he gets to Starfire, and he calls her Troc, and the team is just like constantly like. Eventually, they start calling. Well, actually, no, it's not until this point that someone from the team calls her Troc, and this gives me chills even just thinking about it right now.
This episode where there's some obstacles in the way of the ship. Now, of course, Valley-Or could go out into space and he could get rid of them. However, he tasks Starfire with the job because
wait. Did we not even
the space where that even her other teammates did. He kept calling her a Troc, so much so that even her other teammates started to hear this. There's a part in this episode where there's some obstacles in the way of the ship.
No. We are not glossing over. This is the part. We are not glossing over this.
To hear.
Oh my god. Holy shit. How do you just... This was the moment. Even as a child, I was like, holy shit, that's so good. All right. Cyborg is a black man. He's also a cyborg. He is part robot. There are moments in the throughout the series where it's so good. There's one about like he meets a kid who like loses his arm and needs like a what are those called? A it's not automated. What is the word I'm looking for? Artificial. He needs like an artificial hand replacement. And they have this like really sweet moment and everything, and there's all these great moments about Cyborg, about how like he's more man than he is machine, and it's the man that makes the machine. There's so much good stuff, but we're not talking about all of it. We'd be here forever. We talk about all the good shit Teen Titans did. That moment specifically, Cyborg has two things that make him very different from the rest, from the majority of people, and very different from the rest of the team. Even if everyone else wanted to say wear street clothes, they could still, for the most part, pass as humans. Beast Boy being green is going to be more noticeable than Cyborg, but in real life, we don't have green people. We don't have orange people. Well, we have some orange people when they get like a really bad spray tan, but we don't have orange people like Starfire is. We don't have gray people like Raven is, but we do have black people as a real race of human beings. I remember when I was a kid, I said that I think Cyborg is actually my least favorite. Well, no, I didn't say it was my least favorite. I was choosing between, or maybe I might have said it was my least favorite. I'm not sure, because he doesn't look like me. I probably said something like he has dark skin, or I knew the terminology, he's black, whatever. Now, as a kid, what I meant by that was just simply he looks different. He looks vastly different, and that's not what I am. That's not what I relate to. My mom actually did a really good job at not like chiding me, because I was a kid. You don't chide a kid for these kind of things. You just correct them. And my mom just explained, well, that's not like a good reason to not like someone. She like explained like, well, is there really any difference? All that stuff. Like, no, I mean, I like him. He's just, and so I kind of worked through the idea that basically everyone had to look like me through, or they had to look like me to be relatable. I kind of worked through that idea and against that idea with the help of my mom in that moment, and with the help of Teen Titans. But that's a whole nother. That's not what this is about. What this is about is, like I said, this episode came out when I was 8. So because of that kind of conversation that I had, and similar things where I learned about a little bit of things having to do with racial equality and stuff, I knew enough to know that like there were people that were racist and just didn't like black people. I didn't understand it, but I knew that it happened, and I knew that this is something even a superhero like Cyborg would have to deal with, at least before he became Cyborg, probably even still after that. So when he has this moment, which apparently the gentleman here is just going to gloss over, Starfire walks into this room. Cyborg walks in, tries to give her a high five, and he says, "Yo, what up, Troc? Up top." Starfire reacts in this way. She freaks out. I'm not going to find an actual clip, and I'm not going to play the audio because Warner Brothers especially is super fucking strict about their copyright. So, we see the gasp, the like, I can't believe. Now, the way they play it off in this show is that I can't believe a friend of mine would call me that, because she thinks that they know it's a derogatory term. She doesn't, or they don't, but so we have this, so she chides him. She says, "You don't call me that." And he says, what's the big deal? I thought you said it didn't mean anything. And she says, "No, it means nothing. It means that I am worthless." And Cyborg responds, "So you figure that if you punch him out for it, it'll just confirm all the bad things he thinks about you?" He's calling you a bad name. And she says, you know what it's like to be, disliked simply because you look different? And even as a kid, as an 8-year-old, I got that. And I realized, oh my God, it's because he's black and they're going to tackle the racism he deals with. Like, I didn't think that specifically, but like, you get what I mean. And Cyborg says, of course I do. I'm part robot. That was fucking incredible. They didn't even mention the fact that he is actually black and even in the real world would have to deal with race. No. It's because he's a robot. But the truth is, both of those are true at the same time. And while it is true he may be discriminated for being a cyborg as well, the real thing that people are talking about, the real thing that they got away with, is that he's discriminated because he's black. And the fact that they did this, and it's so good. And it's the kind of stuff that nowadays you would see people like the Quartering and Ben Shapiro and stuff say, oh, this is pushing some woke liberal agenda. And so, no, this is, I mean, technically yes, but this is expertly done. I mean, expertly, super subtle done storytelling. It is incredible. I cannot stress enough how good this show was and how amazing that moment was, even for 8-year-old me to realize, holy shit, it's because he's black. And the fact that they used the other thing about him that is very different, of course, we don't have cyborgs in real life. We have plenty of black people in real life. We have plenty of black people even in their world too. But the fact that they used that as a surrogate for racism is, oh my God, it's so good.
Now, of course, Valior could go out into space and he could get rid of them. However, he tasked Starfire with the job because, in his words, your people can withstand the harshness of space. Instantly, when he says your people, it reminded me of the Drewski meme, and I just sat there thinking to myself, what do you mean by that? He sends her out to the harshness of...
So, this isn't something I thought about. I was just fixated, and I still am whenever I think of this episode and I think of the amazing issues this show has tackled, and how expertly it did. I think of that scene that I talked. That's like the pinnacle to me of children's entertainment handling this stuff well. And yeah, no, that's true though. Your people will handle. I thought that just meant, okay, well, it's because she's Tamarin. I mean, like, she's literally an alien. She's from another planet. So I figured kind of naively, like, oh, he just means, she can withstand the harshness of space. I grew up with this show. I've seen for the past couple of seasons, she would constantly fly around in space and take these long. I mean, that puberty episode I talked about before, she flew so far into space to get there. So I thought it was just that kind of thing. I had no idea it was getting at. Well, I'm not sure what he was getting at actually. Well, your people kind of thing. That's obvious looking back at it now. God, this show's so good.
Space to put her life on the line because to him, she's less than everyone else that's there. These are human life forms and she's a Tamaranian. She's nothing.
It is really weird, by the way, that this guy who is also an alien would value humans over another alien. It's like, aren't they all, I mean, you're all, what does it matter? You're all still alien. I don't know.
She's beneath them all. In a lot of ways, he looks at her as less than and expendable.
Oh, and by the way, to think that anyone's like less than a Tamarian, I don't understand that at all. But then again, that's how racism works, right? That's how prejudice and bigotry works. It doesn't actually make sense. But let me see if I can find like this girl can like make energy beams, energy bolts. She can fly. She has super strength. Like, what is there to be prejudiced about her and her race of people? Like, what is it? I mean, I talked about that arranged marriage episode, and you go and you see her planet, and you see that, they're, relatively barbaric and stuff. And I guess, they are pretty barbaric extremely old-fashioned, even to the point of arranged marriages, because Starfire is a princess. But yeah, I don't know. I don't get it.
And this reminded me of times in my life where I felt this way. Show of hands in the comments and comment down below if you've experienced this. But how many times?
How to Defeat Homelander. I love The Boys, by the way. That's such a good show too. That also tackles social and political issues in such a very well done manner. It's incredible. But look, I would love to gush about The Boys. I just need something to come up in order to talk about.
In your life, have you been in a situation where you felt expendable? This could be at a workplace, at home, around your friends, but have you ever felt less than or expendable? I want to tell you guys quickly about a time that I felt this way. It was my first time at my nurse job.
Yes, by the way, I've talked about this before. Just real quick before he gets into his own story, I've felt, and I would imagine, I'm sure many of you have as well, felt, things like everyone would be better off without me, and all kind of other messages like that, and you just feel like you're expendable. You're not really like kind of needed, I guess, in general, for life. Now let's address the fact that this is a black man talking about this, so he is obviously going to have a very different perspective, and I think it is one that is definitely going to be worth listening to, so let's do that.
It was right after I got my degree, and this was many years ago, but at the time I was new. But because I was a male and I was strong, I got some perks that some of the other women nurses didn't get, specifically because we were working in a dementia unit and there were very aggressive clients. I remember being in this situation and seeing some of the women nurses there getting fired over me. There were a lot of times I wasn't perfect. I would mess up things in the dementia unit. I would mess up things with certain clients, but they would still let go a lot of the women nurses, even though they were spectacular employees. They valued my strength in this very aggressive workplace over women because they felt like they couldn't do what I could do physically. And yes, in this situation, I wasn't the one who felt expendable, but I seen other people have this terrible feeling of being let go.
I did not expect it to go there at all.
I had to go to work every day, not worrying about being let go because I knew they needed me. But all of these women had to fear for their jobs. Layoffs are real and cutting business sucks, but in this instance, I seen someone feel less than. Yes, it wasn't a racial thing, but it was a gender thing. And this happened to Starfire. Starfire was in this situation in space with her life on the line because someone thought that she was expendable. Of course, Starfire gets everything right and she saves the day and she's fine. But after this happens, Cyborg approaches her. You remember earlier I told you that some of her teammates heard this term troc.
Oh, he's going to talk about it. Good.
Well, Cyborg decided he wanted to see what this word meant, so he uses it towards Starfire. He asks her, what does troc mean? And she says, nothing. And at the time, I thought she was saying nothing because she didn't want to talk about it, but when Cyborg calls her a troc, she gets very defensive. She tells him it's not okay to call me that. Don't use that word when talking to me. And Cyborg says, I thought you said it meant nothing. And she says, no, I said it meant nothing. When Valley Orr calls me a troc, he is saying that I am nothing, that I am a nobody. They called Tamaranians trocs because they viewed us as lesser life forms. And this part hit so close to home to me because she asked Cyborg, do you know what it's like to be called something or to be looked down on because of the way you look? And of course, because it's a Cartoon Network cartoon, they can't say yes because Cyborg is black. Instead, he says,
of course I do. I'm part robot.
It's so fucking good. Oh my god, I'm sorry. It's so good how they handled this. Oh my god.
Let's go find Robin.
But we all let
The next shot, I'm not going to be able to find it, but if you watch the episode, which I highly recommend, watch the whole show, by the way, it's incredible. The next shot shows Robin fucking seething. And he says, I had no idea. He's like, I'll make sure he pays for this, and he's like gonna go punch him out because let's be real. Like I said, Robin and Starfire are like endgame from pretty much the beginning, and he's very protective of her as well. They're very protective of each other. They have a very sweet relationship in general, though. But yeah, his whole thing is like, I can't believe this guy's talking shit about my girl. He's like, I'm gonna fuck him up. But yeah, and of course, everyone supports her and like, yo, we had no idea. And from that point on, everyone turns on Valeroy, whatever his name is. Does it? Oh, yeah, I don't know. Valley, whatever.
At home knew watching this what they were trying to convey here. Cyborg is a black man. Of course he knows what it's like to be talked down on and to be looked down on because of the way he looks. This was a powerful, powerful moment in this cartoon. Cyborg is furious and decides that he is going to go tell Robin, and
oh, they are showing the shot.
Of course he does. Upon
yeah, that's the shot. He's so it's cute when they both get like this. There's a lot of moments where Starfire will get jealous of different situations, or Robin will have the same interaction. You see a lot of their relationship in general, but it's not just like things like that. Of course, you see how beautiful their relationship is in general too. Real quick, by the way, technically, I guess you could say Starfire would have been like my first crush. I think she's the reason that I love like the cute, bubbly girl next door type, because like Starfire is so good.
Filling Robin in on what happened, he is very angry. And he says that Valior is going to apologize, but Starfire says, do not confront him because the mission is more important than my feelings. Let's relate this to our life for a second. There's a lot of times I haven't reacted to racism to protect myself and those I love. I was a little boy and I went to my aunt's house. A lot of you may not know this, but I am majority black, but part white. My mother chose to date black men, and the white people in my family, they blackballed her for that. They turned my mother into a black sheep and they mistreated me because I was black. I went to go swim and my cousin said that N-words weren't allowed in this pool.
Oh my god. This dude's like around my age, maybe a little older, maybe a little bit younger. He was growing up in like the 2000s, maybe the 90s, and people were saying that shit to him. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, really? God damn, that is so fucked. I never, I don't know, I never understood this whole like people being against like mixed dating, mixed marriages, interracial dating, interracial marriages, any of that. I do know though, have I don't know if I've talked about like dating preferences and stuff. Okay, well, real quick, I don't know if I've talked about this or not before, but on a side note with that, while dating preferences and things like that are valid, and you can say not want to date a certain looking type of person aesthetically, like maybe you I don't know, you don't like redheads, or you don't like blondes, or you don't like aesthetically you don't like maybe someone with like blue eyes, green eyes, white skin, dark skin, whatever. I didn't know as a kid that there was a strong, or even until like a couple years ago, that there's a very strong like negative disposition toward especially black women, and this idea that like black women aren't beautiful and stuff. And I grew up with a father who told me at one point, don't ever marry a black woman. And I like internalized that for a long time to basically mean don't date or even allow yourself to be attracted to women that aren't white. Or as I later developed into my own, white or white passing. Eventually, that was something that I was able to really kind of delve into and deconstruct, and now I just love all women. I actually find myself leaning more toward darker features, like more of a more Latina or Middle East kind of Arabic, like a or Italian even, tan, dark hair, dark eyes, that kind of thing, which is partly why I try to um, uh, incorporate it for myself too. But no, I just it's kind of like a cool like mix of everything and stuff, and I think it's pretty dope. And just real quick on that, if you have like you, you know racial preferences or anything else like that, that's fine. It's important to look at why you have those preferences or that exclusion. Is it just like aesthetically you don't like the way someone does look, or you do prefer the way they look, or are you prescribing and essentializing traits to them that they might not actually have? I never had this thing where I was like, oh, I don't like, it was never, oh, I don't like women who aren't white because, they act this way. No, it was just like aesthetically. I just thought that I didn't like them. Now I find myself just being like, I just like them all. But I don't, and you shouldn't, fetishize different people, different races. There's a lot of times when you have people that say they'll only date someone who is outside of their own race, like, oh, I'll only date Asian men, I'll only date black men, I'll only date black women, I'll only date those kind of things, right? Maybe not all the time, but most of the time those people are actually racist. They a lot of times will have this like weird fetishistic thing to them. There's a lot that goes into all these different things, but yeah, it just made me think of that. But the actual concept of not even allow, because there are parents who will not allow their child to to date or marry or whatever somebody who is a different race. It's wild, and it is very common in old-fashioned racist white communities and old-fashioned racist black communities. There was even a whole like story arc in the reality show Love is Blind, in which this white woman, no, I'm sorry, this black woman fell in love with this white man, and her family was super against the fact that he wasn't black. They were like, why is it got to be white? And there are people who are like that, who will just yeah, pretty bad.
She was younger than me. She was probably about 5 or 6 years old, but that was a core traumatic memory.
Wait, what now?
For me, it was probably about N-words weren't allowed in this pool. She was younger than me. She was probably about 5 or 6 years old.
Okay, so that was a child that didn't even really know what they were saying. They were just, they were just spewing hate because they didn't even know. They were just taught to hate. Oh God, that's so fucked.
But that was a core traumatic memory for me, and I always wondered where she learned that word from. Now, of course, I understand where she learned it from, but at the time, I didn't understand why she would talk to me that way. That stuck with me. Even today, when I go to just swim, whether it's at a pool or even the ocean, I remember this every time. But I didn't react. I didn't get mad. I didn't attack her. I didn't yell at her because I didn't.
By the way, I can't swim, at least not well, and I'm white. It's not a black thing, but it is interesting how that there is that stereotype that black people can't swim. I don't get it. Black people can't swim, white people can't jump. It's just bullshit.
I didn't want them to be mean to my mom. They had been mean to my mom most of my life. I just wanted to protect her, and I knew if I had reacted or told her what happened, it would have just made things worse, so I decided not to react. My mother was more important than my feelings. It's sad that things had to be that way. Starfire showed that she is someone with humility that doesn't look down on people and doesn't judge them. When they get to the home planets, her and Val-Yor go to plant the bomb, and of course, she tries to help him off.
See, look at this shit. Look at how fucking badass she is.
Her and Val-Yor go to plant the bomb, and of course, she...
How could you... look at this shit. How could you ever look at someone like this and say, yeah, they're inferior to me? What the fuck?
Tries to help him multiple times, but he doesn't want Atroc's help. Eventually, he puts the bomb down, but a failsafe triggers. He's almost trapped, but Starfire uses her energy and saves him. He's reluctant to hold her hand, but she grabs him anyway, and they escape without losing their life. She brings him out to them and says he needs medical attention, so they return to the tower where they nurse him back to health. Upon leaving, Valior is made to thank Starfire from the other Titans. And he says, something that I've heard a multitude of times being a black man, I guess you're one of the good ones. This stings. I don't know if any of you have ever been talked to this way, but being called one of the good ones, it hurts. It makes you feel like they're deciding who you are as a person. This person talking to you is over you, looking down on you, judging you, and rating you. They get to decide if you're a decent human being. And it's not because of your actions. Don't let them gaslight you. It's because they felt safe and comfortable with you. They make Valior leave, but Starfire says one of the most powerful quotes that I've ever heard in a cartoon. She says, there is nothing you could have done. There will always be people who say mean words because you are different, and sometimes their minds cannot be changed. But there are many more people who do not judge others based on how they look or where they are from. Those are the people whose words really matter. Thanks for watching.
God, it's so good. Oh my God, it was such a good show. And again, just the way they handled that was absolutely incredible. Now, I really do think that today, I think there are a lot of shows, especially that I grew up with, like Avatar: The Last Airbender is a great example of this too. But I really do think that there are things like this where today, if this stuff was around now, you would absolutely have the people like, like Ben Shapiro, and these other like anti-SJW types that would just rail against these things and be so against this idea that they don't need to be teaching kids about this stuff. And it's like, yeah, they do. I don't know about you guys watching this. I imagine probably, but for me, entertainment is like what shaped so much of who I am. I kind of like I viewed like the world. I learned about the world through entertainment. To me, the family sitcom was what a family was supposed to be. The teen sitcom, like Drake and Josh, Ned's Declassified, Zoe 101, these shows I grew up with, was what my life was supposed to be as a teen. It wasn't. And, you know, I learned so much through media and thought that, like, this is how things are supposed to be or how they aren't supposed to be, you know, different things like that. And when shows and movies and stuff that is, like, aimed toward kids, and yeah, it is, really make an effort to tackle important subjects, they are very good. I learned about the concept of school shootings through an episode of Static Shock. Like, and even the concept of gangs and stuff through Static Shock, which, for anybody that doesn't know, Static Shock was also a DC animated series. Technically, okay, so real quick, there's this thing called the DC Animated Universe, in which it started with Batman the Animated Series in 1992, eventually went on to include Superman the Animated Series, Justice League Unlimited, all that stuff. Wait, just look up real quick the DCAU. Yeah, it was like all of this stuff. And technically, Teen Titans is not part of the DCAU. Well, not technically. It's not part of the DCAU. It'd be nice, but it's not. Neither is Young Justice. But anyway, what was I looking for? I don't remember what I was going to look for. I'm sorry. I might have completely botched my point. That's what happens when your mind moves fast as mine. Oh, Static Shock. Did I spell it right? Oh, I didn't. Okay. So Static Shock follows Virgil Hawkins, who he's a dude that has superpowers, and it's cool. But there was an episode. Let me see if we can find the we'll just do gun episode, in which you had this character who was constantly bullied by other kids, constantly bullied, and his dad had a gun in his safe, It's just called Jimmy. And in the safe, or not in the safe, sorry, it was in a drawer. Jimmy took the gun and took it to school at some school assembly thing they were having, and he threatened to shoot the bully. He didn't shoot the bully. Oh, here, bully's right here. And this is, I don't know if he liked the girl or like what the deal was, but yeah. So you had this whole intense scene, and like, look at this shit, like, and the whole message of this was, for one, at least the message I took away, especially as a kid, was, don't be a dick to people because they could turn around and do this kind of shit. But more than that, this was my first introduction to the idea of gun violence and things like that, and yeah, it's so many of these things that I learned about in media. I was fortunate to learn about them in that controlled environment through media and the stories that I was watching. Unfortunately, many people are not, let's be honest, privileged enough to have learned about it in that way. They had to learn about these things firsthand. I learned about a lot of these issues in a very couched way through the media. But I think that that's a good thing, because people who wouldn't have had knowledge of those kind of things otherwise get to be exposed to them. And I'll tell you, my parents actually said I wasn't even allowed to watch the show after a while, because after I saw that episode, I was terrified. I was very scared as a kid. In general, I'm scared about stupid stuff all the time. But I was terrified that, like, I don't know, some kid was going to show up and try to shoot me or something, even though I didn't like do anything wrong to them or anything. I don't know. It just, like, the thought and like everything just scared me. I think it's, I don't know, whatever it was. Yeah. Anyway, my point is, children's animation, children's shows, media, all that good stuff, do and should continue to tackle serious subject matter, because it is good and important for children to learn about the real. Oh yeah, the character, I don't know his name, Virgil's best friend. This guy, I think he becomes a superhero named Gizmo later, but he, I think he like jumps in the way of the shot, and Jimmy ends up shooting his leg. I forgot about that part actually, but in any case, yeah, it's important for these kind of shows to be for these kind of issues to be addressed in children's shows, because for one, it might be the only exposure that they have to it. For another, it's important to to teach kids about these more uncomfortable things, or things like the fact that gay people exist and there's nothing wrong with that, and all kind of things like that. But yeah, no, this the idea that the right has been pushing for a while, of this, like, oh, the liberal media is like ruining everything, and they're putting all these agendas and messaging in children's movies and TV. No, they always have. It's just you don't like what the messaging is, and they would have been raving about this stuff back in the day too. I mean, this kind of stuff has always been going on. We had like the Satanic Panic in the 90s and 80s. We had just all this crazy shit where all this pearl clutching, think of the children stuff. Well, yeah, no, yeah, think of the children, and they can learn really good messages from episodes like this that tackle real issues. Like, oh my god, this scene, I'm telling you, I didn't put together the rest of this stuff the guy's talking about here, but this scene, I want to get the right framing on it. Oh, come on. This, oh my god. This scene gave me chills to this day. I think about it, I look at it, I'm like, that's it. That's like, that is the perfect example of how to use children's animation and media that's like made for or geared toward kids, how to introduce difficult issues to them. So anyway, yeah, I think it's good. I think it's based. I think it's hella rad that they do things like this. I think they should continue doing things like this. And anybody that purports the narrative of like, oh, children's animation didn't used to be like, no, they're lying to you. It's always been like this. I know this is only like, what, 20, almost 20 years ago, 18 years ago, Jesus, 18 years ago when I was a kid. This is just, my generation, but this kind of stuff has been around forever. You had all these like movies and sorry, like TV show specials about like anti-drug messaging and stuff like that, and they weren't necessarily the best, but there was like an episode of Full House, for example, that taught me the dangers of peer pressure a little bit, stuff like that, right? Anyway, no, this is good stuff. It's good when they do this for children's entertainment, and they need to continue doing it. Fuck the naysayers. So, as always, these are just my thoughts. Let me know what yours are in the comments down below. Follow me on social media for more. Subscribe and ring the bell to stay up to date. Leave a like if you like, and if not, I hope you find something to do like. Later, guys. Peace and love.